The details matter, and the details can make some pretty big differences. And today we're going to talk about one of those details as Klay Thompson's deal came in lower than he initially agreed to, and that has now created space for the Miami Heat not only to add one role player, but two players at the veteran minimum and fill out their complete 15-man roster. We talked a little bit yesterday about the prospects that they could sign, and it was then said that they can only sign one of those guys. Now they can actually bring back two. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, Dejounte Murray and his ability to get back ready and healthy on the basketball court. And the Boston Celtics are entering a new phase without Jaylen Brown, and why Payton Pritchard and his growth can make it all worth it. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of the Full Court Podcast. My name is Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow us at the Full Court YT on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. So Klay Thompson, who gave back nearly $10 million on his buyout and is putting his money where his mouth is in regards to wanting to sign and have a chance to compete for a championship. Now, he did say he doesn't expect to win a championship, but he at least wants a chance to compete for one. And at that point yesterday, it was reported that he was going to sign a 2-year, roughly $13 million deal with the Miami Heat. But now that he's officially signed with the Miami Heat, and reportedly now, this is something that they convinced him for over the phone, and what delayed the signing on Sunday is that it's set to start at $5.6 million for the 2026-27 season. And that's really good, which now leaves the Miami Heat roughly $5.2 million under the first tax apron. And that now allows them to sign two players at the veteran minimum. The prior deal that was originally reported, the $13 million, would have only allowed them to sign one player at the veteran minimum and have 14 and leave the 15th roster spot open. Now they have more flexibility to add two role players to this team. So they could go from them adding Nick Richards, who's been working out in the Miami Heat with their players in their facility, or Gabe Vincent, to now maybe adding both of those guys. And so this gives them more room under the first tax apron because they are hard cap, remember that. And so now it allows them to fill out their roster a little bit more easily. What this means is that Klay Thompson has continually put his money where his mouth is. And so now you're able to sign somebody to the 15th spot as well as the 14th spot, and that's it. Now, I want to be clear here. This is helpful, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's hugely season-altering, right? And so, the difference in the $1.5 million, though, it does. And that's why I say the devil sometimes in the details, right? Now, the 14th and the 15th spot on the roster doesn't usually swing your chance to win a championship or anything like that, but more depth, it can't hurt a team like that, And we talked on yesterday's episode when we talked about this initially of a player like Ryan Conwell as a rookie maybe needing to play a big role for them. Now, if you add Gabe Vincent and Nick Richards, you can bring Ryan Conwell along a little bit more slowly. Now, if he's ready, Exposure's going to play him. There's no doubts about that. So there's there. Now, Klay Thompson's on the court performance is going to matter more than this in the long run. But just the fact that he's, again, continue to do what he needs and show leadership in there, that's it. So now the question is, should the Miami Heat use the flexibility now or not? The side of feeling now is that you're trying to win right now. More depth does help you survive injuries. It provides you different looks, especially for a coach like Eric Spoelstra, who definitely during the regular season is not opposed to going deep into that rotation. And, of course, it restricts as the season goes on. And when you look at the number of veteran minimum players that are still out there, that's it. So you need options around Giannis, around Bam, around, Aaron Wiggins and Davion Mitchell and Klay Thompson and all these guys. And so I think right now is that this roster is where it's at, where small additions are going to matter a lot for this roster, and that's good. Now, they could leave the 15th roster spot open to prepare for anything else that could open or something like that, but they also could waive a player after the buyout date to create another open roster spot if they decide to do that. They could choose to wait to the buyout candidates much later on in the season in regards to that as well. But the flexibility and the optionality is really what provides so much possibility here for the Miami Heat. And so, you already have people questioning the Klay fit on this team. I've said what I think about it. I think that Klay, for what he is right now, he brings shooting gravity and he brings spacing. And that's really what you want. You add that to the other, good percentage shooters that they have. I think the people do need to realize a difference here. And Wes pointed this out. Wes Goldberg, who is the host of Locked On Heat in our episode of Locked On NBA that we did together, is that being able to shoot a decent percentage is different than floor spacing. People are going to guard Klay Thompson at the three-point line regardless. players like Davion Mitchell and maybe even sometimes Andrew Wiggins to a degree, they're going to be teams that are willing to leave them open on sometimes and dare them to shoot. Klay, you're going to have to guard because his ability to float off the ball, all those type of things, and his ability to punish defenses, that's going to be there. But this has to, again, as I want to continue to point out, has to be more than a nostalgia play, and that's up for Klay Thompson to prove that it's more than that, and we'll see if he does. But Miami Heat fans, hearing that Klay Thompson taking just a little bit less has now added you so much more flexibility to your roster. How do you feel about that? Which two role players do you think they should sign that would make the most sense for this team and what they need still? Let me know that part down below. With that said, Dejounte Murray talked a little bit about his rehab. And while Dejounte Murray is a player that his last two stops haven't necessarily gotten what they hoped out of it. Him going to Atlanta never really got with what Trae Young as they hoped that it was going to. So far being in New Orleans hasn't really netted what they hoped. Again, he's had injuries and things like that. And he talked about getting back on the basketball court last year saying this. Even coming back last year to play 14 games. It was really just like now where we're 14th in the West, so we really didn't have anything to play for. But as we could reach 10 and get in the play-in, so it gave me something to play for. So that's my reason for coming back. Or I would have just set out and got ready for this year. But I was like, no, I wanted to go. I felt ready, obviously, and preparation is key. Preparation is everything. And I worked my tail off to even be in a position to play. So I was excited to go out there, not to show my team and the people that support me and my family, but just anybody that you can fall back and get back up. As long as you got the mental part down, it's easy, but you can do it. Anything's possible, right? So Dejounte Murray is a very interesting player on an interesting team with an interesting roster. He's just interesting all around. Like, I look at the New Orleans Pelicans roster almost every year, and I say, this is a team that has a lot of talent on it. It's just never come together. Now, I do think that the Pels, much like most teams, are not going to be trying to tank at the start of the season because of how the new tanking rules are. But if for some reason it doesn't work out and they do look to move Dejounte or Trae, Herb Jones or Sadiq Bey, right, or any of these players, like it's still a possibility for them to try to move those players as they're going to have, gravity. And some teams are going to look at those guys and think that they can help their team. The big part of it comes down to Zion, which that's a story for another day. When we get into our division by division breakdowns, we do a little thing like that. But here's the thing. Was Dejounte Murray right to return last season? I think, yeah. If he felt ready, go and play. And he obviously didn't hurt anything. Yeah, it was a little bit of a risk, but sometimes you have to take risks to get big payoffs, and that's what he did. So the question now becomes this season, right? Getting and playing those 14 games, and then going back, rehabbing this offseason, things like that, does it make you be able to come in and actually help this Pels team be able? Like, Dejounte Murray is still a player that can create offense. Even when you look at those 14 games last season, almost 17 points, 5 rebounds, 6.4 assists on 48% shooting from the field. Like, this is still a player that can impact. And Dejounte Murray's special ability, has always been able to fill out the stat sheet and hopefully play really good defense once he gets back to this healthy version of himself. He stabilizes the backcourt. He can create. He can do all those type of things, right? And so if he's close to himself, New Orleans offense, especially in the half court, does look different. But at the same time, the Pelicans are going to need more than just Dejounte Murray. They're going to need more than that. There are questions up and down this roster, despite the number of talent that they have on this roster. And so we're going to see. Health has been a problem for this team across the board. When you go and look at how many players on this team over the last 2 years have missed significant games, you just see. And the West, as we know, is completely unforgiving, right? And so one comeback is not going to solve a franchise full of injury decisions, injury woes, and problems, right? But I think when you look at the Pels, and like I say, from a pure basketball standpoint, when you look at the talent on this roster, you can't deny the talent here. The question is how does this all finally come together in a season where it makes sense, and then you actually feel like you're building towards something? The Pelicans have been a what-if or maybe team for far too long. Despite that other than that season, they did clearly make the play, and they were a playoff team. It's just it's been a lot of questions. And you still have that, right? You have big questions going into this one. Can Zion Williamson and Derek Queen work together? If not, what are you doing there? What's the future there in regards to that? You have Jeremiah Fears, you have Jordan Poole, you have Dejounte Murray, you have Trey Murphy III. What's happening in regards to all of that, right? Sadiq Bey is a solid vet on this team too, but like what the future, if there is any for that as well. Like there's so much with this team that you look at and you're just like, this is a huge question mark. But sometimes, and like I say with most teams, the offseason is about finding answers to questions. And development is also about finding answers to questions. And now we're going to see what's going to happen with that one. But let me know down below. What do you think about the Pels? Do you think that this is a season that they can bring some things more together and show what they're going to do? And we shall see. Moving into the last topic for today. the Boston Celtics. Right? I want to talk a little bit about the Boston Celtics because there was an article out that said that Payton Pritchard, basically they are betting on his development about being a better basketball player to help mitigate the loss of Jaylen Brown at least some. Now, Payton, for what it's worth, was asked about that, and he said this: "I'm just worried about becoming a better basketball player, and ultimately that should hopefully lead to more success for our team and me individually. Really, it's whatever the team needs. I try to focus in that sense. Some of that stuff is out of my control, whatever the coaches decide and all that, but being the best basketball player possible, adding to my game, getting better, becoming more efficient will lead to more success. I learned so much from him," talking about Jaylen Brown, "so I'm very grateful for our relationship. He's obviously a tremendous basketball player. He took me under his wing at times, and I'm very grateful for that." So the bet on Payton Pritchard to become a better basketball player, right? Is Boston right to lean on Payton Pritchard? And I say this. Yeah, he had a career best production last season, and that was without Jason Tatum being there for a large part of that season. He's entering what should be his basketball prime, right? And he's already shown that he can score, he can facilitate some, he can defend. He's done that, right? And he fits in the lineup with Jason Tatum, Derek White, and Paul George. He fits in that. And so the Boston Celtics clearly believe in that development, at least to some degree. At the same time, replacing Jaylen Brown just isn't that simple, right? A 10-game sample size without Brown isn't enough to justify what Payton Pritchard was able to do without Jaylen Brown last season. So you're going to have to find that. And I think that you don't need Jaylen Brown's numbers, right, to do that. So I don't think Payton Pritchard is going to get Jaylen Brown numbers. I just don't think that. Now, I've learned to count out no player, but he did average 25.2 points per game without Jaylen Brown. He shot 48.5% from the field and 44% from three. He also gave them 7 assists per game as well. So that does show some flashes of being able to be a lead guard on a team, and we'll see. So the Celtics felt like they saw enough, and now they want to see if it can be there. Now, sometimes sample size goes wrong, right? It was only 10 games. And we've seen players have 10-game explosions before, and it doesn't all of a sudden mean that that's going to be their career, and we'll see. The question that many people are asking, right, is that what are the Celtics going to be next year? Is this a team that can still be one of the top 5 or 4 teams in the Eastern Conference? We'll see. Jason Tatum's going to be back fully, hopefully this season. Payton Pritchard, they're hoping, is going to take another step. Derek White is still a winning player that helps contribute to that. And then you have Paul George, who, when you look at how he played last season when healthy for the 76ers, there's definitely some really good production there from him. But the East is more loaded than ever before. Philly has Brown and LeBron. Miami added Giannis, Klay, and a bunch of other players to solidify that team, right? Cleveland now has Peyton Watson along to go with James Harden. Indiana's getting Tyrese Halliburton back. Detroit's coming off a 60-win season, which their best player is still very young and can take another step forward as well. And then also you have like Washington, who added team, Atlanta Hawks, who may have one of the best defenses in the league as well. So I think when you look at all of this, it just puts you in a situation where the East has gotten dramatically better. And so now when you have teams with loaded rosters and the Boston Celtics have on paper taken a bit of a step back, what does that then look like, right? So we'll see what's going to happen in regards to that one. Like I said many times, and I'll say it again, I've learned to never count out a team, never count out players, because you just never know what's going to happen. But this is going to be a dramatically better Eastern Conference and a fun Eastern Conference as well. And seeing a team like Boston, who still has really good coaching, still has really good players, still has balance, how do they work that out this season? It's going to be fun to see that, and we get to watch it, and I get to talk about it here every day on what the Eastern Conference looks like. So, we'll cover it during the season, and we're going to get in detail with it. So let me know what you guys think on that down below. We're going to start doing our division by division previews, right? So rather than do team by team, we're going to do division by division. Going to have a lot of fun with that one, so stay in tune for that. I don't know which division I'm going to start off with, but we'll start it sooner here rather than later. But we're going to be starting that, so make sure you guys stay in tune with us. Stay locked in with us to do that. Sound off down below on all the topics covered for today. You can follow us at the Full Court YT. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. The full NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball and NBA related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making an episode. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Breaks Media.